You can go through the night, watch golf all night.
How are you still married?
It's a question my wife asks all the time.
In the mirror?
I might watch an hour of it tonight, just to get a feel for it.
Just to warm yourself up for tomorrow?
Just for the good stuff that's going to come tomorrow.
The World Cup of Golf is your fluffer for Tiger and Phil.
Exactly,
Good
you
stuff.
said it.
Well done.
All right, thanks for that, Richie. Richie, you're back at 10 o'clock. Are you on tonight?
I am indeed.
What sort of good stuff have you got for us?
We have actually a Fela Classical special that was put together by Tom and Newcastle before Tom took his little break. Looking back on Fela Classical down at Semple Stadium, so we'll be hearing from a lot of the bands that were involved. We'll be hearing some live tracks.
Tom interviewing himself?
No, actually, he hasn't taken that step, but he has spoken to the likes of Hot House Flowers and The Stunning and Emotional Fish and Frank Walters, etc. And we'll be hearing the fruits of that after 10 o'clock tonight.
Tom Glennon wonders, why would Kenny, Stephen Kenny that is, as a non-league level manager, be considered to lead top class players? He certainly would not help attract players who might be eligible to come over to us.
It's not a transfer gig.
Well, also, Martin O'Neill had the CV and still managed to lose possibly the best player of our generation in Declan Rice, of this generation.
You're doing yourself a favour there by calling Declan Rice of your generation.
Of his generation.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, this is the point about an Ireland manager. We should be getting somebody involved and somebody on board who can actually develop things and move things on away from trying to hope that somebody has a granny who once lived here for 20 minutes to get involved, you know?
Tom's just trolling us, I think. He's just trying to wind us up a little bit. You failed, Tom. It's time for the football show.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app for exclusive price enhancements on the biggest games around. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
You're welcome along to Thursday's football show. There is still only one topic of conversation in Irish football. Who is going to succeed Martin O'Neill as Republic of Ireland manager? Well, right now, Mick McCarthy is the overwhelming favourite. What we've been hearing is that McCarthy is going to begin negotiations over the next couple of days, and they're not expected to last too long, that an appointment could be made even before the end of the weekend. But as we know, with the FAI and managerial appointments, these things can change quickly, and that outsiders can come into the reckoning very quickly. Stephen Kenny, from what we're hearing from Dan McDonell, is still very much in the mix. Dan is going to join us before 10 o'clock to bring us up to date with all the latest and give his thoughts, because he's been doing some proper journalism over the last couple of days. So we haven't heard a huge amount from Dan, but he's going to bring us up to date with the process, what's happening. But right now it seems McCarthy, strong favourite, Stephen Kenny very much next in line if McCarthy doesn't want to take the gig. So we'll hear from Dan in a little while. But the Keith Andrews Show is live every Thursday lunchtime on offtheball.com and all our social channels. Always some really good stuff from Keith in there. And this afternoon we were joined by the Aston Villa midfielder Conor Hourihane. He, of course, has been a regular member of the Irish squad over the past 12 months without making too many appearances. Matt Doherty obviously made some comments about the Ireland training setup last night and the lack of preparation. So we spoke to him about that and who he thinks should be the next Ireland manager. So this, Conor Hourihane from the Keith Andrews Show earlier today.
No problem, lads. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, pal. Yeah. Well, listen, we're about, just over a day past the announcement. First of all, did it surprise you in any way that the FAI made the decision with Martin? It must be said that they would go their separate ways.
I suppose a little bit it did. There was a lot of kind of mumblings, obviously, from the outside of the camp on the situation. But I suppose, you never know in football. Obviously, the results weren't great recently, but there was no kind of, from inside the camp that anything was going to happen. So I suppose when it did break, there was a surprise element there. It's never nice when a manager loses his job, but ultimately, I suppose it's a results business, and the results for us as players and as a group weren't great. And ultimately, that's when the manager kind of gets a lot of pressure on board.
Conor, how difficult has it been? Like, we've all been through different aspects of our career, club, country, where it has been difficult times. I can't remember such a tough time in my career personally, of that long of a tough time. So the last 12 months since that defeat to Denmark, how difficult has it been for a player?
Yeah, it's been really, really tough, if I'm being brutally honest. It hasn't been easy at all. You know, I was probably a little bit lucky when I broke into the squad. You know, my first couple of squads were, you know, with the likes of, you know, John O'Shea and Darren Murphy and Wes, and they had just come back off a Euro campaign, and I was involved in that fantastic night in Wales. You know, and that feel-good factor was there. You know, it was a fantastic group to be involved in. And all of a sudden, within a couple of trips, you know, the squad completely changed. You know, we had a lot of injuries as well. And it just felt like that feel-good factor wasn't there for whatever reason. And did I see that coming back anytime soon? Well, I'm not too sure. So, you know, for the last 12 months, like you said, it's been really tough as a player. It's been frustrating because you want to do so well for your country. It's one of the ultimate kind of honours, you know, as any footballer. So, you know, you want to go out there and you want to do well and you want to perform well for your country, but it just hasn't gone our way. And like you said, the last 12 months has been really frustrating.
I watch you play, Conor, every weekend, depending where I am, and I see you playing for your respective clubs. And I've constantly made the point that we're not seeing the best of certainly you, of Jeff Hendrick, of certain players that I feel I would have kind of similarities to when I played. So when Matt Doherty comes out and says what he says last night, and basically kind of alluding to what I've been saying for the last year in particular, when the results haven't been going our way, how difficult is it when you're not getting that level of detail going into the game and the way that Martin likes to manage? Yeah,
it's not easy. You know, listen, I'll always, first and foremost, I'll always be grateful for Martin. You know, he's given me 8 international caps. You know, I would have snapped your hand off for one. You know, so for that I'll always thank him. But listen, it hasn't been easy. I'll be one of the first to say, you know, my form for Ireland when I got my chance hasn't been as good as my club form. You know, and that's a disappointing element for myself. But you know, it's hard to say. You know, listen, it's like you said. I think club form from a lot of lads is good. You know, it's very hurtful to hear lads say, you know, that it's a very poor squad or whatever. You know, the worst in years. I don't think that is the case. There mightn't be as quality players as, you know, your Damien Duffs and your Robbie Keane, but I still do feel strongly that, you know, there is talent in that squad if, you know, the right man is there to take charge of the squad and put us in the right direction. Because I've seen lads do it in training or playing against them in the championship. The championship is a competitive league, you know, and lads play well here every week over in England. So, and to go over then and not play so well for your country, you know, something just isn't right, and it is frustrating. So, you know, that obviously, hopefully, will change now with a new manager involved.
It feels as though, in general, the standard of coaching around the English game has gone up a couple of levels in recent years, and that was something Matt Doherty touched on, that they're working with a very innovative coach in Nuno, and spent a huge amount of time in the training pitch coming up with a style of football that's attractive to watch and also is very successful for them so far this season. I just wonder, when you look at what you've been doing with Villa and what all the players have been doing with their clubs, if I don't want to say it's a step back when you come to Ireland, but if it's just too different, if it's just too old school for what young modern footballers have become used to.
Yeah, maybe so. You know, I have to say here now with Dean Smith. Dean Smith, obviously, Keith would know. You know, the detail that Dean goes into every single game is second to none. You know, we play a very attractive style of play. You know, he leaves no stone unturned for any game. He's not satisfied with going away to, say, Derby and taking a draw. He wants to win every single game. He wants to put our plan across to him, and he wants to play an attacking style of play, and that suits us here. And it's been fantastic to play in. Obviously, that may be the case, you know, when we go over to the Ireland squads. But ultimately, you know, the lads have to, you know, do the best they can for what's put in front of them, because, you know, yes, you'd run through a brick wall, and so many players would to play for Ireland. But obviously, you know, the detail, I would say that from club level to international level was definitely different, and it was definitely a tougher environment to play in, I would say.
I guess you just said you want to run through a brick wall to play for your country, and it's the dream for all of us. When we start out, you know, you've lived it. But when you're sitting on the bench then and you're watching Cyrus Christie being selected in the middle of midfield, and yourself and David Myler and Harry Arter are there, who are playing week in, week out at club level in that position, that must also breed, I guess, an attitude in the squad of frustration that at times can unsettle things.
Yeah, listen, you know, you can't really question the manager and what he did. You know, I'd never sit here and criticise any player. You know, when the lads go out there, you want them to do well because you want the feel-good factor and the buzz around the squad and for it to be a great environment to be in. Obviously, it is hugely frustrating, you know, without a doubt. I want to be out there playing. You know, whoever's playing in the middle of the park, you always feel like you could do something different to somebody else. But, you know, it was frustrating. Of course it was. Every player that, you know, the players that you named out there would say the same thing. But you know, that was the manager's decision at the end of the day, and Cyrus played in there, and fair play to Cyrus. He probably didn't feel comfortable in there, but he got on with his job because he wanted to do it for the lads, he wanted to do it for himself and for Ireland ultimately. But you know, like, it is frustrating, but you know, you just have to try and get on with it as best you can as well.
I don't think it's any slight on Cyrus Christie at all, and I genuinely felt sorry for him covering the games and seeing him playing in midfield. So it's certainly no slight on him, because I've got the utmost respect for how he performs for us in his right position. Conor, I'm a bit sick of hearing, and especially in England more so than over here, I think about we just haven't simply got the players. I just don't buy into it at all. I see a squad of players who've been saying to Nathan that you've alluded to it, will run through a brick wall, that have certain qualities. I do think we're lacking in certain areas, but the qualities we have, for instance, you being a goal scorer midfielder, we simply haven't had the chance to see that in a green shirt yet. The level of assists you've had over the last few years for both Barnsley and for Aston Villa. What is this squad capable of?
I think it's capable of more than what it's showing, definitely. You know, I obviously play in the Championship, and you watch the Championship every single week. It's a competitive, good league, you know what I mean, without a doubt. The majority of our players are in the Championship or lower Premier League, but you know, are you telling me that, like, Northern Ireland, say for instance, who came to the Aviva last week and got a better squad than us and they played some good football? Definitely not, you know what I mean? I don't feel like we're probably maximising what we have right now. And we probably as players just want to show what the quality we have. It's hurtful. It's not nice, you know, to hear people say it's a terrible squad, because we really feel that that's not the case. There is quality in that squad without a shadow of a doubt. And like, hopefully now it's an exciting time. Hopefully now, you know, with the right man in place, that he can get that quality out of the lads that I know that, you know, there is in that group without a doubt.
I look back, I look back at certain games throughout my career with Ireland, and you've got to hold your hands up against some of the bigger nations that you face and kind of go, look, they're a better team than us. You have to suck it up to a degree. But you've hit the nail on the head. Last week against Northern Ireland, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because the level of players they have on paper isn't as good as ours. But yet our lads were chasing shadows, lacked that idea. That must have been a frustrating watch for the players. Yeah. Whether they were playing or on the bench or part of the squad, Conor. It must have been a difficult night, that one in particular.
Yeah, definitely. It was. You know, you look at their squad. You even look at the Wales squad that came to Ireland. You know, when Harry Wilson scored that goal, I think we had 6 or 7 Premier League players, and they had 2 or 3, something like that, and they played good football that night as well. You know, I think maybe, you know, when I first joined the squad, you had the likes of John O'Shea, Darren Murphy, Wes, Glenn, Stephen Ward, people who had hundreds of caps between them, and they probably didn't need as much info and as guidance, you know what I mean, because they had huge amounts of experience. I think obviously with the younger and inexperienced squad that's there now, we needed every help that we needed possible. We needed all the info we needed possible to compete at that level, and you know, that's where I think we found it frustrating, because international football is such a high quality, and lads, I've seen that over the last 12 months. The results haven't been great. But like you said, and I'll keep saying it, I definitely know that there is quality in that squad, without a shadow of a doubt, definitely.
Go on then, Conor, tell us what you're saying in your Irish team WhatsApp group. Who do you want as the new manager?
Listen, I'm
someone who'll pick you.
Tell you anyone, just in case that manager doesn't get the job, and then I'm
the two front runners are obviously Mick McCarthy and Stephen Kenny. Yeah. How aware would you have been of what Stephen Kenny's been doing with Dundalk over the last few years?
I've been keeping an eye on it, of course. You know, obviously Cork City and Dundalk would have been the top two sides in the last couple of years, and you know, being from Cork, obviously I keep an eye on the Cork City results all the time. You know, they've gone head to head quite a few times, so you know, I've heard only good things about Stephen. You know, so you know, I know he's a front runner at the minute, and same with Mick. You know, I've obviously played against his teams a lot of years over here in the Championship, so. You know, 2 good names, and you know, whoever it is, you know, hopefully it's an exciting time now. You know, and hopefully whoever comes in can get the best out of the squad, because, like I've said over this interview a few times, there is quality in the squad without a doubt.
Well, if it's either of those two, you'll definitely be getting a game with that response. Yes, on a serious note, you've got the derby on Sunday against Birmingham.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. It's a massive game for you.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us, Conor.
No problem.
See you
soon, guys. Take care.
Good fella. And we haven't seen the best of him in an Ireland shirt. What I have seen closely at club level over the last few years, and it typifies a lot of our players. And if you can raise that collectively with 5, 6, 7, 8 of those players, then it's a different performance, obviously. And he keeps on going about the detail. What struck you there?
Well, I think in a different way, he very much backed up with what Matt Doherty was saying, and even. But
he's very appreciative of the fact that Martin was the one who captured.
Exactly.
And so he should be.
And I'm sure he will always be grateful for that. But definitely the sense that even within the squad, there was a feeling that, I don't want to say we're on the road to nowhere, but that there's no sign of this turning around, that something is going to come in and reignite the spark within this group. That the last year, it sounds as though, has just taken too much out of everybody. And again, I think it feeds in to, he said it himself, modern footballers from a young age are probably overcoached. Like, we'll have John Giles in this evening, and John would say, you're a midfielder, you're a footballer, it's easy. It should be easy to you.
With all due respect to Johnny, he's obviously a lot older than I am, and I would agree with large parts of that. Where you're nurturing days, and if I was in development football now, I would be kind of portraying to players and trying to get across to players. You have to take responsibility. You have to lead in games. There has to be an accountability that lays at your doorstep. You can't always look elsewhere. Look to the sideline. You can't always look at your iPad at half time and see where you're supposed to be. You have to take responsibility. So I would agree with that. But that's the hand he's been dealt, the man. That's what he's got to deal with. So then you have to adapt as the manager.
100%. But it's noticeable, he mentioned several times the experienced players who've left the squad. I would say that they were very good at getting that message across, that John O'Shea is very capable of using his experience from Manchester United, the things he's learned, and been able to adapt them. Even though, that's something that struck me from the Irish squad for years, is that there's almost a lack of trust at times of each other. That John O'Shea wouldn't play the same balls at Ireland that he would at Manchester United, because quite simply, when he gave it to Paul Scholes, he knew he could relax for 5 minutes. Sure. Whereas here, he knows he's not playing with players of a similar calibre, so there's an automatic confusion in that. But clearly the loss of all this experience hasn't helped matters either. And the younger players coming through, as we say, I say younger players, like, we're still talking about guys who are 24,
20s.
25, but they have been brought up to learn the game in a different way. That follow orders, and don't step out of line. Don't be the rogue element.
Yeah, that's the cut-off point when you're looking towards those age groups. And I've said it numerous times in the last year, that change of the guard, and even John O'Shea, when he wasn't playing, he was still a vital part of that squad. Been able to kind of calm things around the hotel, lift spirits with the experience he had. Unbelievably good pro, unbelievably good fella. Someone like Johnny Walters, who's not there at the moment, similar, really popular amongst the players, can take that type of flack, can take the crap from Keane.
And Séamus Coleman, in fairness to him, I think he said that when I spoke to him after the game on Monday night, that over the last year, some of us have had to step up a little bit more than we did previously, and maybe there was too much. Well, Séamus has clearly, particularly in recent months, has stepped up and been more of a vocal presence. But there was this vacuum, it seems, of players leaving and younger players not being ready to step up because at club level they're not expected to, or maybe they feel they're not playing at a high enough level. Maybe if the guys who are playing championship football don't feel they can come in and start telling people what the deal is here, because there's Premier League players around the place. It all just adds to a sense of confusion and means the role of manager is more important than ever.
Look, it's a tough time, really tough time. But can you imagine if we were here like this week and the decision hadn't been made, which we didn't think was going to be made? Like, I would have been parking this up on 10 minutes and gone like, right, let's just park this till February, March. Maybe chat about the draw and who we get and things like that. But like, literally
last Thursday night after the Northern Ireland game, with John Giles on air, and our first thing was, what can you say that's new? Nothing. Like, we've seen this, we know what's coming, we know what's happening, and nothing is changing. So at least the change has come, and by listening to Matt Doherty last night, listening to Conor Horan there, I think the players needed it.
The players needed it. Yeah, it was, regardless of what they said, it was evident from the performances and what's gone on in the last 12 months. So it was very much needed. And regardless of what way the FAI go, there is going to be an upturn. I have no doubt about that.
No, I'm still very confident we will qualify for Euro 2020, regardless of whether it's Mick McCarthy or Stephen Kenny.
Because of the third bite of the cherry.
Exactly. I just think there is enough in that squad to bring us to a slightly higher level, which is all we need. We just need to be we don't need to be massively better. I just think we need to be a little bit better, and we'll qualify. But I think for Irish football, most definitely Stephen Kenny is the one that will give us the bigger boost.
Possibly.
Nah, you're turning.
Nah, I'm only
You're turning.
I just gave you a little dangle there.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Future proof.
On Future Proof, we're all about science. We're about facts. We're about getting things right.
We were talking about immunisation. Why were we talking about immunisation? Anyway, we were. And we got a text
we actually weren't talking about immunisation.
Oh, we weren't.
This is just one of our random texts.
On the new and improved Future Proof podcast, not so much so. Check out the new Future Proof podcast on newstalk.com or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Future Proof.
Proudly supported by Science Foundation Ireland.
On News Talk.
Anyway.
You know that Tetra Pak cartons keep drinks protected and fresh. But did you know that Tetra Pak cartons are recyclable? So, to help us look after the planet's resources, always recycle your Tetra Pak cartons. Simply put them in the recycling bin at home. And they may just come back as a bag, a tissue,
Bless you.
or even your next hot chocolate tub. Tetra Pak protects what's good.
CompuB's Black Friday event has kicked off and everything is reduced. That's absolutely everything. Save up to $400 off Mac and $150 off iPad. Available in-store or online at CompuB.com. Our Black Friday event ends November 30th. CompuB. Real discounts, real service, real Apple experts.
If you're thinking of buying a residential rental property, ICS Mortgages can provide an excellent range of flexible buy-to-let mortgages, including interest-only terms of up to 15 years. We'll also help you to refinance your existing portfolio and grow your property investments. Call 1890 427 427, visit icsmortgages.ie or contact your local mortgage broker. ICS Mortgages, the property investor's choice. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply and are subject to change. The entire amount that you have borrowed will still be outstanding at the end of the interest-only period. Dilosk DAC, trading as Dilosk and ICS Mortgages, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Are you running low on office supplies? Come to huntoffice.ie, Ireland's #1 online destination for office products and a whole lot more. Now, offering over 100,000 products at the lowest prices with next-day nationwide delivery. Why shop anywhere else? Pay us a visit today. You'll be surprised at what you might find. Huntoffice.ie, for all things office.
In 2019, the game will change. Introducing the next generation of self-charging Toyota hybrids, including the bigger, bolder, all-new RAV4, the all-new Corolla hatchback hybrid, and the Corolla Saloon hybrid, the world's best-selling car, reborn. Demand is higher than ever, so don't miss out. Order today at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, built for a better world.
Brighten up this Black Friday event with a perfume shop's most exquisitely scented offers, like Roberto Cavalli. Only €30 for a 75ml, saving €51 off the RRP of €81.30 while stocks last. Plus, indulge in a little self-love and grab 20% off your second item. Visit the perfume shop today. Offer ends 25th of November while stocks last.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Very welcome back to Thursday's football show. So you've just been listening to part of the Keith Andrews show, which is up on offtheball.com now. We were talking to Conor Horan and we were also talking to Henry Winter about the English team and Gareth Southgate, and he was very good on Gareth Southgate's role over recent years, right from grassroots level up through the under-21s up to the senior team, and maybe that is something we could use an example that Ireland could follow. So you can check that out on offtheball.com. But Dan McDonell is taking a break from proper journalism to join us in studio.
Yeah, proper journalism.
What do you know, Dan? What do you know?
I just think, is there anything football won't do to get back to the top of the news cycle here? All this stuff about where's football going, and now front pages, back pages.
Yeah. Nobody cares, Joe. They're all back to New Zealand.
Yeah, you've
all
done your bit.
All we care about right now is whether it's Kenny or McCarthy.
You've done your bit. Thanks very much. The public mood was lifted, but we're back to what we do best. Irish football does crisis better than everyone, lads.
Every time I see a headline saying Kenny, I think it's Kenny Cunningham, and I get really excited.
Just in any walk of life.
Oh, just anything that.
How did you cope when Enda Kenny was in charge of the country?
Well,
it's been deeply confusing at times.
It's very, very confusing in my life. Sky sources, Dan, are reporting that Mick McCarthy's to meet the FAI this weekend to discuss the vacant Republic of Ireland manager's role. You're about 9 hours late there, lads.
Those Sky sources. It's difficult. Sometimes, the time difference between here and England or, those Sky offices. It could be one of those...
Have you got anything good for us?
It could be one of those...
What do you know?
It could be one of those offices with really bad coverage, and then someone goes outside and then they get a message from 8 hours earlier. It's like, they didn't have the 3G on. The 4G on. That could be what happened.
That thing, when somebody sends you a WhatsApp message that you've ignored.
Oh, yeah.
And then they send you another one that you want to answer, but that would mean that you'd have to acknowledge that you've seen the previous one.
I don't understand this at all. Do you do this often?
Well, I'm just looking at JP here. He's the prime example I use for this.
He's actually just taken out his phone and looked at it there to realise.
And I kind of, but then you have to look at all of them and then you have to reply to everything. And maybe that's what they do.
Just ignore them.
Yeah. So do you know anything, Dan? Come on. You're the football correspondent of the Irish Independent. Who is the next Ireland manager going to be? What's your headline tomorrow? Break it to us.
Well, I had a bit of stuff today. Listen, I don't think it's a massive surprise, a shock to say that Mick McCarthy is the front runner. That's the situation, and there's going to be talks. I don't think that's untrue. And I think, if you're putting your 50 quid down, which you shouldn't do, obviously, to gamble on these things, but he'd be the favourite in that world. But
why would?
But I don't think it's clear cut. I don't think it's signed and sealed. I don't think it's deal done from what I've heard. Mick McCarthy, to be fair, he's out of work. There's no compensation deal to be done, and I don't think that negotiations are going to be much of a problem in terms of, say, demands and his desire is known. I just don't think, just sort of soundings out there, that I don't think Stephen Kenny is out of this completely, and I think it will be one of those two, and I'd be hugely surprised if it was anyone else.
We were debating this on the show last night, myself and Kev very strong that he feels that Mick McCarthy will garner more instant respect. Not that Stephen Kenny couldn't get to that level of respect from the players, but that when Mick McCarthy walks into that dressing room, instantly he will have the respect of the players. And I sort of felt that no matter who gets this job, there's going to be an instant upsurge in interest in the national team, that we'll be back to a sellout at the Aviva come next March. I've been very surprised looking at the tweets we've been getting all day and the texts getting all day, how negative people are to the possible reappointment of Mick McCarthy, and a feeling that we're going back over old ground. Why look back 15 years when we decided to get rid of him then, to go back to that manager again? Why not try something different, something a bit more progressive, somebody who's winning league titles right now, somebody like Stephen Kenny?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a significant point in some ways. That I think, ultimately, why do we think the change was made in the last week? I think the FAI are fairly conscious of public opinion. They're also very conscious that they need to qualify for the next tournament and get the money from that. And that's undoubtedly a part of the equation here. There's obviously layers to debate in terms of what's the best fit right now. But I also think that they know that the mood is negative around the team. And the McCarthy news comes out today, and he's a strong favourite, and there's no denying that. But as you mentioned, I don't think the FAI are going to ignore and not be conscious of the things that you're speaking about there, that there is a certain going back over old ground with this, and it will stir some emotions and feelings that were quite negative towards Mick McCarthy, and that's what they don't want. They don't want to start off. I heard the point made on one of the shows, because we've been listening to so much stuff and reading so much stuff, that I think it might have been Joe saying it, that whatever happens, the next match is a sellout. I'm not so sure that that's necessarily the case, you know, in this particular scenario. If it turns out to be Mick, I think it depends who the opponent is. I think certainly there will be a positive response to Kenny. There will be a sceptical response to Kenny in quarters too, of course there will. But there'll be a positive response that would, you know, that would definitely give a lift. And I heard you make that point, and I do agree with that point.
Yeah, I guess I am surprised, because I did think that there was still, and maybe there still is, a lot of goodwill out there for Mick McCarthy. But it's interesting that a lot of the talk around why they got rid of Martin O'Neill was 30,000 people there at Northern Ireland, but also maybe O'Neill's side of the spin, that John Delaney was starting to feel the pressure and wanted to make a change. I don't want to say almost to protect himself, that, well, listen, if we change things here and the national thing is going well, there's less pressure on him. That actually, if it's Mick McCarthy again, everybody goes, well, this is more the exact same. What are they doing in the upper echelons of the FAI that they don't trust a new voice?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now there would be views like how good was, say, Mick McCarthy's relationship with the FAI hierarchy when he left. Oh, okay, Delaney wasn't making the decisions at that point. But still, yeah, I mean, there would obviously be an obvious sort of working relationship established there. But yeah, the broader point is, you know, when people, some of the language that people use about Mick McCarthy, and I don't have a problem with the Mick McCarthy sort of potential appointment, but I'm just saying that some of the language that's been used is very much, okay, there'll be an organisation and structure, and, you know, he knows the gig, he knows the territory, and, you know, he'll almost get us qualified, which is actually a lot of the language that would have been used to support keeping Martin O'Neill in the job, apart from there is always a bounce with a new manager, and it's one of these things. It's a new voice, it's a different voice, and Mick McCarthy is very well regarded by most, if not all, I think, players that, you know, have spoken about working with him. So there would be I think there would be an injection of positivity that comes with that. But in terms of maybe selling the broader picture of this being something different, it's more in danger of being sort of a better version of what was there before. Initially.
Like, maybe I'm imagining a world that simply doesn't exist, though, that for some reason, because if you were to go with Stephen Kenny and he does somehow implement a more attractive style of football, that people are more forgiving and he gets through 4 years as Ireland manager. Whereas with Mick McCarthy, you sort of know what's going to happen. We're either going to qualify and he'll last another year, or we don't qualify and they decide to make the change then. It's not a long-term appointment.
Yeah, I think the slight issue is, though, that as much as we talk about the 4-year plan, and more so referring to your point on Kenny, that, you know, to miss out on Euro 2020 with the framework of the competition now, you're coping with quite a lot of disappointments.
So do you think
in a spell,
no matter who gets this gig, if they don't qualify for Euro 2020, we'll be looking for another new manager?
I think there's a strong possibility that might be the case. I don't think it's certain. I take your point. If you go down in a blaze of glory and there's a buzz around the games, and without going into the Nations League sort of that sinkhole again, there's a very good chance Ireland, worst case, are going to be in the playoff in March 2020. Can you imagine the build up to that? Okay, we might be away, we might have difficulties. If you have a brilliantly progressive performance and you can sell it, you've got a chance. McCarthy, I don't think, would survive that. Kenny possibly could, but I've always felt with Kenny, the concern with me, I think he's definitely got the attributes to do the job. I've no doubt that he could do the job. I'm not that concerned about, say, the reaction of players. I think you have the power to change that. Although it's a complexity, and it's something to overcome. But to me, and it's possibly related to it's the timing of it. It's the limited scope before the first games. If it was to be March and there's 2 games in March and there are big games, and you have someone who has a defined style, you can go around and you can meet the players and you can do everything that you need to do and say, well, you know, this is who I am. But it's almost that group mentality of the 25, 30 players in a room, and someone who is a sort of very idiosyncratic approach, which you need people to be bought into. So that is a complication. There's no doubt. I think
that's a complication for all future Ireland managers, though, and all future international managers, because the days of Martin O'Neill style honeymoon of getting 10, 11 months before your first competitive match are over. There are no proper breaks except every second or third year for 2 or 3 friendlies in June. Aside from that, you're not going to get your team together for 3 weeks.
No, but in the year just gone, you would have had opportunities. Though the flip side, I mean, I can't be too smart about that. I mean, 12 months ago, after Denmark, I don't think Kenny would have got the job. Cork had won the double. you know. And actually, so my argument with timing with Kenny would be that actually, you know, a year's time would be perfect off the back of what they hope to be another good European campaign next year. But actually, maybe the timing is just now because they've won a double, and you know he's available when the job is free. Well, he's not available, but I don't think that would be an issue if it came to it. So there's layers to this debate, as I said, and I mean other names are going to be thrown around, and I think there's other people expressing interest from outside. But I think with FEI talking about wanting things done by Sunday week, they'll be looking to this neck of the woods.
We move on very, very quickly in these things, and Martin O'Neill is almost brushed to one side already. Just on some of the complexities of the deal that saw Martin O'Neill go, the initial feeling was that, well, they couldn't get rid of Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane because it was going to cost too much money. It could cost over €3 million. You were reporting today maybe the figure was actually more around $1 million. I'm seeing maybe $1 million and $1.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, with these things, like there's
a good deal.
There's a confidentiality about these things, you know, that people are never just going to come out and speak about it naturally. But I mean, I think it's well known that at this point, I think that Martin O'Neill, knew going to the meeting that it was over, and you know, I think so preparations were made accordingly in terms of the meeting. Really, I don't think it was so much about whether you should go. I think there was an element of, you know,
how do we make this as smooth as possible?
And it happened very quickly, it must be said. And it happened very quickly. And these things can be difficult, but it happened quickly. And in those events, when you part by mutual consent, you meet somewhere. You try and meet somewhere in the middle as much as is possible. And there's other, it's not just Martin O'Neill, it's other people. So there's Roy Keane, who was obviously a big deal, and the other members of the coaching staff as well. So, I mean, these things can drag on, but it actually seems to have gone fairly smoothly.
Matt Doherty was the first to step out of line and reveal the inner workings. Well, I say he was the first. Like, obviously Stephen Ward revealed the inner workings previously, and there's been a million different leaks over the last year from people around the camp of how shambolic training was and how poor the preparation was. But Matt Doherty actually came out and pretty much said it. Conor Hourhan didn't disagree, was maybe a bit more savvy in his wording.
Still interesting words from Conor, though.
Exactly. It feeds in to that. Martin O'Neill, one of his traits and one of his characteristics is that he was extremely sensitive to criticism.
There's no denying that.
And the Times of London are reporting that, understandably, Martin O'Neill was absolutely furious with Matt Doherty. And is absolutely furious. And a call may have been made. Poor old Matt. Imagine that moment last night. You come off, you think that was fine. Just did a interview with a little radio station over there. It's fine. I'm sure nobody will hear it. The next thing your phone starts ringing, it's Martin O'Neill. You're like thinking, he's ringing to apologise for not giving me the big chances I deserved.
Bloody Times of London. I mean, yeah, that story is known. They're in the rounds, as they say, and it'll be, I think, in other places tomorrow as well too. But the basic nub of it, you know, Martin O'Neill was not happy. He was not enamoured with Matt Doherty's tone, and the tone, it must be said, was quite extraordinary. You know, the casual delivery of the most scathing things you could possibly say about a manager. And I think, you know, the point that Doherty did make, and naturally it doesn't get reported as much, is that he hasn't been in the squad for that long, and he wasn't there for the better days.
Exactly.
And the one point I thought that Conor Hourhan's point was interesting was about the loss of guidance. You know, that the senior players knew, you know, they knew what they were at, in the sense of they could be cajoled in a particular direction, but they could take control of situations. And this comes back to the whole point of the wasted year, really. That, you know, this transitional phase of the 12 new caps, the 9 internationals, although the Nations League internationals were important. That
have they actually learned anything from being in for the year?
Yeah, well, and has their first experiences in some cases of international football like been really negative. And that the fear is that just like that plants a sort of a seed about what international football is like, and that's why the next appointment is so important, because you need to turn that straight into a feeling of positivity. Like, when you think of the Staunton years, which was it's a chaotic period, Now, he did bring in some new players across the piece, but it wasn't like a dramatic turnover. You know, when Trapp came in, there was the likes of Robbie and Duff and people who'd tasted good times in international football before and were slotting back into it again. They'd be there under care when they'd be very competitive and so on. So that was more like a blip. Whereas you don't want for these group of players now for it to become their experience of international football, the norm. And again, this is why this is a very important appointment for many reasons.
Yeah, I guess it's understandable why Martin O'Neill will be very annoyed about it, but he's also played a good game in maintaining a lot of his reputation in England and around English football. That suddenly, if this leads to, and part of the problem is now, every interview you do with an Irish player, they can say, oh, it was great, I really enjoyed it. So Matt Doherty was wrong in what he was saying, or he was making this up? Is that what you're implying here, or did you have a different experience? That it becomes more of a story than Martin O'Neill would want it to be. Yeah, and I mean, I heard you say earlier, you know, I think, and I wrote this today, you know, I think Martin O'Neill was always very acutely aware of his perception in England. And, you know, he did bits to address that. I don't have a massive problem with him communicating, you know, or speaking with sort of journalists in England that he knows. I mean, that's just the business. You know, you have contacts with people built over a long period of time when you might have worked with them every week compared to people you don't see. I don't necessarily like some of the sort of gripes with that. However, I think maybe did it help him in some ways? I'm not so sure, in the sense that I don't think he ever really plugged into the perception of his team in Ireland. And I think he saw Ireland very much as local, you know, as Ireland as a local region relative to the English football market. And while people in the big league and people in England saw his work in this way, because as I said, people in England are just look at the squad where the players are and go, what could he do? People here that this is our existence. We see every game, live and breathe it, have a very different relationship with football, because the international team is the one thing here that unites people in one way. Sure. And I think that was a mistake. Lads, saw a chap today sticking a right few quid on Neil Lennon, says the Walkinstown Beckenbauer.
Oh, the Walkinstown Beckenbauer.
Ooh.
I don't think a manager...
Depends who it was.
Yeah.
Not that we want to go down now.
Well, what are you suggesting?
Not that we want to go down now.
Was this person...
I was going to say a Liverpool footballer.
Yeah, was this person ginger? Like, you know...
Yeah.
I don't think someone that's currently working for another club would really fit in. As much as I think Neil Lennon, I think he would tick some of the boxes.
Mick is in for a rude awakening at Ireland. Last time out he had players who were infinitely better at his disposal. This Ireland side is a shadow of the lads from 15, 20 years ago, when he had, in 2002, Shea Given, Steve Finnan, Ian Hart, Kenny Cunningham, Steve Staunton, Roy Keane, Jason McIntyre, Matt Holland, Damien Duff, Robbie Keane, Kevin Kilban. That's only 1 to 11, not including Mark Kinsella, David Connolly, Gary Breen, Richard Dundee, Kylie Niall Quinn, Gary Kelly, Clinton Morrison, Andy O'Brien, Stephen Reid, Lee Carsley, Alan Kelly. That was a good squad.
Except, remember at the time when Roy Keane sort of toddled off? I think people might remember that thing. You might remember. Do you remember it?
What happened?
I'm not sure. It was a big thing that happened.
Here, Mick gets the gig.
Yeah.
How many questions does he get through at the first presser until Saipan's brought up?
Oh, depends. He'll be in the broadcast section first. It'll be you lads looking for your soundbite, your chief soundbite. Probably someone from the news. Definitely someone throwing it out there.
One of those guys.
One of those, you know the type. But people at the time when Roy went, of course, said the squad wasn't that good, whereas now... So he was like, Roy's gone. What have we got without Roy? Now we're looking back at 02 like this was the golden era. This is the golden era.
And the technical brilliance of Mark Kinsella in the middle of midfield. We miss those guys badly. We're going to take a quick break.
Off the ball
on News Talk.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
You can get all your Christmas shopping done in one place at Swords Pavilions. From treats and presents to food and gift cards, we've got it all. There's 2 hours free parking and it's so convenient, right off the M1. So grab your little helpers and head on over. Jingle all the way. Christmas at Swords Pavilions. Festive fashion and fun for the whole family. Love your home.
Don't miss our fantastic Black Friday offers with 20%